The Sinn 104, like the Sinn 556, is one of those watches from that German manufacturer with a cult following. This video will have a review of an homage to that watch, the Militado ML25. We'll see if this watch has a special ace up its sleeve, and we'll see if this watch is a pass or a fail as an homage. I'm Brian, the Chinese watch guy. I live in China. I like affordable watches, especially Chinese watches. So I want to get this Militado in because I don't yet have a stick indices version of this watch. So if you like videos like these, remember to like and subscribe. Let's get into it. Okay, let's get into dimensions. By the way, the watch came with this Watch Dives case. Does that mean that Watch Dives is doing the distribution for Militado? I wasn't aware of that. In any case, decent case. And as I talk about the dimensions here, I am going to compare them to the Sinn 104. I don't own that watch, however, I'm just going to compare it to the listed specs. I think that'll give you a good idea about how compact this watch wears. So the case width is 39 millimeters compared to 41 millimeters, 0.2 millimeters thick compared to 11.5 of the Sinn 104. Very thin for this style of watch. Lug to lug, 46.1 millimeters compared to 47 of the Sinn 104. The bracelet is 20 millimeters in lug width, tapering down to about 16 at the clasp. The Sinn 104 is a bit thicker, also 20 millimeters lug width, tapering down to 18 millimeters. Maybe most importantly, I weighed this in for my 6.5-inch wrist at 110 grams. So it wears very light. The Sinn 104 is reportedly about 155 grams, size for a wrist like mine. So it almost feels and wears like a titanium watch. And so over here I have perhaps the only other Sinn 104 homage around, the Engelmann Enterprise. So I thought I'd just mention this by comparison. This is 41 millimeters in width, a very thick, I would say, 13 millimeters. Well, 13 is not that bad, but because of this sort of slab side, it does wear a bit thick. 48 millimeters lug to lug, and it's an even heftier 157.5 grams. So kind of a hefty wear. The bracelet also tapers slightly from 20 millimeters to 18 at the clasp. I think the bracelet lengths are also a bit thicker. Let's see, about 3.6 millimeters and 3.2 millimeters on the ML25 here. So it's certainly more compact and lighter in most ways. Inside we do have the Seiko VH31 quartz movement, and I kind of have a love-hate relationship with this movement. I love that it does, more or less imitate the smooth sweep of an automatic. And of course, there's no need to set the time. However, being a watch geek, I tend to stare at my watches, and I do notice that the second hand is more jittery than even, say, a lower beat NH35 movement. But okay, it's good for the price. Speaking of the dial, basically it's a one-to-one copy of the Sinn 104 stick indices version. Here, Engelmann gave us an homage to the Arabic numerals version, a very close copy of it, actually. So we do have Lume baton markers all around. We have very fine minute markers all around. Syringe hands, very nice, help with legibility. Militado logo at 12 o'clock. We have the Arrow logo at 6 o'clock. Some of our British friends might dislike that. 200 meters water resistance. The bezel is a countdown bezel, not a count up bezel. It's this kind of glossy black ceramic. Okay, so here's one of my first problems with the design here. I don't think that glossy black matches that stark white of the dial. Frankly, it looks a bit cheap, or maybe just, if I'm comparing it to the actual Sinn 104, it doesn't look quite right. And so I'm going to go back to the Engelmann here. I know it's a different price point, but I think they did the bezel really well. It's more of a matte finish, giving it more of a tool-like look. They have kind of alternating size numerals, if you notice, which we don't have on the Militado. So again, that's more faithful to the Sinn 104. And now we do have a screw down crown, screw down case back, signed case back. And it's a very similar case to the Sinn 104, kind of a blocky angular design, although perhaps that's a bit less noticeable in this sandblasted version, and it helps that it's so thin. I believe the watch does come in sandblasted, brushed, and a version with polished center links similar to the Sinn 104. So yeah, perhaps it's a little bit unfair. I did choose the sandblasted version, which was the only one available at that time, but unfortunately that finish doesn't match the bezel and overall look quite as well. What do you guys think? Okay, I just realized I had the wrong bracelet on my Enterprise here. I had the Citadel bracelet on it, which is actually old brush. This one is polished center links, brush sides, just like the Sinn 104. So that's what the Sinn 104 bracelet would look like. And I just mentioned this because this bracelet has held up really well with the scratch resistance despite those polished links, which is kind of amazing. And so yeah, I mentioned that because if the Militado has the version with the polished center links, well, hopefully it does have decent scratch resistance to deal with the desk diving scuffs and scratches. We'll test some scratch resistance on this version of the bracelet at least in a moment. Okay, here it is on the wrist. There is at least some AR coating. Very comfortable, very smooth, no sharp edges at all. Just a 5-hole micro adjust, no on the fly micro adjust. And yeah, I am quite used to the on the fly micro adjust, which of course is convenient, but of course is much blockier. It is nice to have a small light clasp like this sometimes, I think. As for the bezel action, it is pretty clicky, but inconsistent, especially as I get to about 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock. It's kind of crunchy. Do you hear that? Huh. Yeah, don't quite like that. The Engelmann, by the way, has one of the best bezel actions I've ever tried on a Chinese watch. I swear this is not an advertisement for them. In fact, their website is down and they're sold out of that watch. We're not quite sure when Engelmann's coming back, but yeah, I hope they do. Okay, so let's scratch up a spare link here to test the scratch resistance. I've been pretty impressed with this technology in the past. Let's see how it goes. Okay, as you can see, the scratches are pretty apparent. Is there any scratch resistance here? Yeah, it seems kind of minimal. I know that the listing says case hardening, and I did ask Militado to confirm the hardening is supposed to be on the bracelet and the case. So yeah, take that for what it's worth. Okay, so here's the watch out in natural light. As I said, it's a good looking little watch. The AR coating, as I said, pretty decent, although that glossy bezel is pretty reflective. Okay, let's take a look at the Lume. The ML25 is here in the middle, a Seiko on the right, and a watch dives on the left. The watch does glow decently in the beginning, but not quite as brilliant in real life as it is here on the video. And it really does fade after, say, 30 minutes. Okay, my final verdict is a mixed verdict. This is a handsome, inexpensive, comfortable beater watch. However, as a Sinn 104 Homage, your mileage might vary, but it doesn't quite pass for me. Some of the mismatching elements of the design, really weak lume, kind of wonky bezel, yeah, they don't quite do it for me. Not to mention that underwhelming scratch resistance. For not that much more money, you can get really great build quality with the Engelmann Homage, although it'd be nice to see them thin out this watch, and actually they're sold out, so it'd be nice to see them back for sale. All right, this has been Brian, the Chinese Watch Guy. If you like videos like these, remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.